Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our first session of Traffic TV. I promised you some time ago that we would be getting together around the table discussing all the necessities or subjects relevant to traffic, road, and any other thing else that would come within that spectrum. So tonight, we're here tonight with our first episode of Traffic TV, as I stated earlier, and here in my company is number 407, Senior Sergeant Kenny McBurnie. We're just going to sit here and have some conversations going throughout the evening, maybe for the next 40 minutes. Senior Sergeant Kenny McBurnie is 26 years in the service. He have a wide range of experience in the traffic department. So we will be looking forward to much information coming your way. Please feel free to join us. Send your messages, your questions. You can also WhatsApp us on 774-4663. And if we can answer your question immediately, we will do that. If not, we will put it up for our next session. So ladies and gentlemen, again, I'm your host for tonight. Well, not really a host for tonight, but I'll be sitting in for tonight. And my name is Neville Nichols. And sitting beside me is Senior Sergeant Kenny McBurnie. Mr. McBurnie, good evening.
Well, good night to you, and of course to your audience, your viewing audience. I say a very special good evening. It is a pleasure to be here to christen Traffic TV. I wasn't expecting this opportunity, but somehow I guess my name came out of the hat. But when it concerns traffic, I am always excited about any topic as it relates to traffic. And trust me, in Antigua, when you hear the word traffic, it opens your ear, because of course there is so much happening as it relates to traffic on the roadways, so much craziness. And I'm sure some of you would have encountered one or two incidents or situations where you had a near miss, or you had a hit, or you had a situation where you try your best to avoid, and it's just those sort of things that encourages these sort of programs, just to highlight, to educate, to encourage, and to enlighten persons as to how they should operate when they're out there on the roadways. And Mr. Nichols here, he can tell you that on a daily basis, we as traffic officers, we encounter situations, and sometimes we're forced to deal with situations, and sometimes the response you get from persons when you're there, it's amazing, and I'm sure Nicholas can probably tell you stories, that probably will last the rest of the night. But on a serious note, there's a lot happening as it relates to traffic, a lot that needs to be addressed. And from the traffic department standpoint, we are doing our best to try and assist where necessary, or wherever we can, to try and curb some of the situations, curb some of the things we see happening, the offenses, the habits that we see persons developing. And so we're out there on a daily basis with a little unit, trying to do the best we can daily to ensure that you can feel safe and you can feel comfortable when you're using our roadways. Now, I am sure Nicholas will tell you that we try our best. But of course we can't deal with every single thing, because of course something is going to pass us at some time. Yeah, Nicholas?
That always happens, like they say, when you go fishing, the net doesn't always catch everything. And maybe that's why there's always fish in the sea. So, not cutting into him, but if you have seen that little motorcycle crew out there, kudos to them. They're doing a superb job. Super job they're doing out there. And we give them kudos. Kudos going out to them. From us, of course, we expect the support of the general public. And as we try to educate them in whichever way and form that we can, and we do hope that they understand and give us their support.
And I'm glad you mentioned the motorcycle unit, because as persons may have observed, that from time to time you would see a number of motorcyclists patrolling the streets of Antigua, and trying to do things that will make you feel comfortable on the roadways. Trying to show some presence on the roadways. Now, one of the benefits of having these motorcycles is that they get from one place to another in quick time. Whereas if a person was on foot, the sort of ground that the motorcyclist would cover is way more than a person on foot would be able to achieve. And so that is why we are digging deep to build a unit within the department. Of course, we're short in terms of manpower, but the little that we have, we are trying to do the best we can with it. Yes, the motorcycles, I know that they're in bad shape, and of course we're trying our best to work with what we have in the meantime. Hopefully when new ones arrive, you will see a better presentation in terms of the motorcycles. But as it is for now,
I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait it.
As it is for now, we're using what we have to try to get the work done. And of course, it is an effort to just just keep the roads moving, keep persons alert, keep persons aware of the fact that we're there, and they need to stay focused when they're on the roadways. Now, there are many occasions where persons from the motorcycle unit have almost been hit by persons who are not paying attention. Now, when you're behind the wheel of a vehicle, you must stay focused. And I'm sure, Nicholas, you would have had situations where you had some near misses.
Several close calls.
Yeah. And it's not a very nice thing. And from previous times, we've had complaints with the cyclists. The cyclists, they have been complaining that they have not been respected by persons on the roads.
Because I think even pedal cyclists have that issue too.
They're the ones I'm speaking about.
Not cutting the senior citizens short, but we need the general public to understand, or the motorists to understand, that motorcycles and pedal cyclists also not just share the road with us, but they also have the same right. Yes, I know a lot of persons will say, hey, they didn't pay no license, they didn't pay no insurance, and they not pay, but they do have the same right on the street. And if there is not sufficient space for you to overtake, you ought to remain behind them until it is safe to do so. Because overtaking them when there's not sufficient space, you're either going to blow them off the road or something.
Do you know that they're more protected than the drivers?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So again, drivers, you have to give them that level of respect. The pedestrians, the cyclists, yes, they are protected more than you by law. Yes. And so you must ensure that because they do not have that level of material protection, in that you're sitting in a vehicle and they're exposed, you must make sure that when you're overtaking them or when you're passing them, that you're not putting them at risk, or you're not too close to them that your vehicle will come in contact with them. Because of course when that happens, then you find yourself in some
difficulties, some really sticky situations.
Because of course we at the traffic department, we don't take that lightly, especially when it relates to pedestrians and cyclists. You must be careful, motorists, when you're there. You must look out for those persons. And while I say that, I had to mention emergency vehicles. It seems like persons, when they hear emergency vehicles, their intention is to, let me see how far I can get, before that vehicle comes. But drivers, you must understand, you have to look for an area where you can comfortably pull off and they can have sufficient space to maneuver. Too many times we see situations where persons are driving as far as they can go. When they do reach the point where they can go, something is right next to them, so there's no space for them to go left. The next person on the other side can't go anywhere, and the ambulance can't go anywhere, or the fire truck can't go anywhere.
And on that note, there are provisions within the law that make reference to giving way to emergency vehicle and fire apparatuses. So you have to, whenever you hear the sound, you ought to respond. And again, it comes with another thing where persons don't use their mirrors. So a lot of persons complain that they don't hear it, but do they ever see? Because they don't see it either. And one of the reasons for that is because they don't use their mirrors. Your vehicle is equipped with 3 mirrors. One to the left, one to the right, that's on the outside of your door, and one in the middle of your windscreen on the inside, right? And all 3 mirrors are supposed to be used during your operation of that vehicle to allow you to see what is happening all around you, and your windscreen is open so you can see what's happening to the front, right? So if it is a case where you don't hear it, but once you're alert and paying attention, you would have seen that vehicle coming. If you cannot hear the sound, obviously you should be able to see the light, and you have to yield.
but you know, one of the things I've been hearing is that persons are of the opinion that not all the time that the emergency vehicles are going to some emergency, but that is not for you. That is not for you to determine. I mean, it says give way to emergency vehicles. You give way. You know, it doesn't matter where they're going or what it is. Yes, you leave that up to the persons that they're responsible for that. Your responsibility is to open up a way for them to go through. You never know. You may think that they're not going anywhere. Guess what?
They're going to your house.
To your house. You see? So again, you want to make sure that you are not obstructing this person, because you remember when you did your medical training, they tell you that they have a certain amount of time to get or respond.
Right, that's when they're sent out.
Every delay, it is a second taken away from that person's life, because of course that person has to receive the medical care during a specific period so as to preserve their lives. And so you want to ensure that these persons get to their location as the soonest possible time. You know, likewise with the fire trucks. If your house is on fire, you want to make sure that they get there before the flames get out of control. You know, because not because they have water and they have foam, it means that they can get the fire out in time. Because I can tell you, when the fire starts to blaze, it will blaze.
It will.
You know, so you know, you want to make sure that these persons get their way and they get to do what they're doing and move on without being interrupted or obstructed. You know, I know, Nicholas, you were on patrol today, and I'm sure you would have seen quite a lot in St. John's, you know, and I'm sure you would have seen a lot of persons probably pulling up on Market Street, not understanding or maybe not even care of the fact that Market Street is a no stopping, no waiting street.
Yes, thanks for bringing that up right there. And something that has been neglected, or possibly it could be that of mere ignorance, that the persons are not aware that we do have prohibited parking streets in the state of Antigua and Barbuda. I will name a few of them for you, so you could just keep track on them. And also bear in mind that you can WhatsApp us on 774-3470, 774-3470. You can WhatsApp us your questions, your comments, follow us on the live, and we can respond to your questions if we can immediately, or we can set it up for our next program and we can address your issues. But let's not go away from our prohibited parking areas, where we have Dickinson Bay Street. Yes, Dickinson Bay Street is a no parking area from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day. It's a no parking area, and everybody is aware as to one of the reasons why Dickinson Bay Street is a no parking area. We have heavy equipment on that road every day
to and from the port.
Right, yeah. It's the direct access to our main port, and it have to be clear. We also have Cornally.
So if I live on Dickinson Bay Street, so what do I do then?
If you live on Dickinson Bay Street, like I said, the parking there is no parking between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. Exactly. So during the middle of the night, it is not problematic. But once the sun starts coming up, it's starting to create a problem.
Right.
Similarly, not similarly, Dickinson Bay Street is a time factor. Corn Alley, Market Street, Thames Street, Independence Drive, Popsell Street is a 24-hour no parking.
Yep.
So
there's a restriction on Dickinson Bay Street.
Yes, it is. It has a little flexibility.
Right. But on the other streets that you mentioned,
and I'll repeat them: Corn Alley, Market Street, Thames Street, Independence Drive, Popsett Street. These are 24-hour prohibited
means that
parking.
you should not be stopping or parking on those.
So when you see the police pass and they ask you to move along, you should feel, you should really feel happy that they're using their discretion and not ticketing you, because where it is a prohibited circumstance, it is immediately you're ticketed immediately. That's what happens.
But you see what happens quite a lot is that persons are sitting in their vehicles and they're of the opinion that because they're on Market Street and they're sitting in their vehicle, that it's all well and okay. But that is not so. You should not be stopping there, or you should not be waiting there. And so you should be constantly moving. Now, every other street on Market Street gives you a direction. So you can turn left or right on any other street according to the directions, yeah? And so if you have someone to drop off, you must, or you should be able to pull off on one of those streets to do your dropping off, instead of congesting Market Street, yeah? Too many times you see persons using Market Street as a parking lot. Too many times. And of course we see what happens when pedestrians are using, and the thing with our pedestrians these days, when someone is parked, if a vehicle has stopped on Market Street, instead of using the sidewalks, persons are walking alongside the vehicle and between that and the oncoming vehicle. So a lot of time persons are exposing themselves to getting, hit by someone's mirror or someone's vehicle based on the size of that vehicle. And so it is a very dangerous practice that we see happening quite a lot. And so while we are on Market Street, we want to also encourage you, pedestrians, to utilize the sidewalks where they are available and avoid walking in the roadway. Please stop competing with vehicles. Yes, you're protected, but you also have a responsibility that when you're walking, to make sure that you're safe also. You have a responsibility too.
There is something I always say. You have never seen a vehicle in the hospital.
At a hospital bed. Never.
Well, you have never seen a vehicle on the hospital bed. And I have heard persons make so many comments. They made so many comments like, let him hit me, you see what kind of vehicle he driving? And it's like...
Yeah, but how do you know what is going to happen when you get hit?
Now, supposing the person is not insured. Now you're going to have a whole battle in the court system trying to get something out of him to get yourself fixed. And then you realize that it's a double whammy for you, because you end up going with your broken bones, and then you have that court battle to continue with getting it.
What happens when you get broken, when your bones get broken? It sets you back. And
it really doesn't help your situation anyway, because yeah, you may be fortunate and get a few bucks, but how well does it go for you?
Does that really compensate for the time that you would have lost?
I have known persons who have been involved in collision over 10 years now, and they're still on having medical issues.
Yeah. If you avoid it, of course.
Whenever you can avoid it, just do that.
And if you notice, one of the things that also happens is that persons are walking, and they're walking and trying to use their cell phone. Yeah, it's not in law that you can walk and use your cell phone. But again, it's for
common sense.
Because
common sense.
Guess what? When you're focusing on that message, guess where you're drifting? You're drifting into
the street of a vehicle.
And it exposes you. So those are all things we want persons to pay attention to. You're on the pedestrian crossing, there's a way to use it. And from time to time we tell people, or we tell persons using the pedestrian crossing, when you get to the crossing, stand up.
You must stand at all times. You must.
Not because it's a pedestrian crossing, you can just step on it and start crossing. And persons are of the opinion, persons are actually of the opinion that you can just step on the pedestrian crossing and step to cross, because nobody's supposed to hit you. But then how can I avoid you when you make sudden moves like that? You must give the driver the opportunity to stand up.
Or especially when you're coming from between cars.
Exactly. You must give the driver the opportunity to see you. Because if he didn't see you, there's no way he can avoid you.
And a perfect reference is Community First Credit Union. Community First Credit Union has a pedestrian crossing right in front its step, and when you exit the building, right there you walk straight down the steps, straight onto the pedestrian crossing. And I have seen a number of persons
Park right
come.
there.
Well, they stop parking there now. But what happened is that the pedestrian or the individual comes straight from the building, straight down the step, straight onto the pedestrian crossing, and traffic is flowing on Old Palm Road. Now that gives the driver minimum time to react and to stop to avoid you.
Yeah.
And the other thing about it, to add insult to injury, so many of them run. They busy through the pedestrian crossing and they drop their speed limit all the way down once they hit the pedestrian crossing. It is creating an issue, and I believe pedestrians need to be more responsible where that is concerned. Pedestrian crossing, usage thereof.
You see, they're supposed to be brisk when you
Brisk crossing the pedestrian crossing.
Yeah, not taking your own sweet time and saying, oh, they have to wait. No, that is not the objective is not that. You must cross and cross in such a way that, you know what, you're making every effort to get to the other side. Not you strolling or you modeling across, you know.
Or sometimes turning back.
Or standing up to wait on someone.
But we want to advise people also, where a pedestrian crossing is available, use it. Because honestly, it is very frustrating for drivers or for motorists when you have 2 and 3 pedestrian crossing within close proximity and you still choose to cross where it's not.
Or if a person's crossing just below the brow of the hill.
You know,
Very dangerous place.
you have
around
to
the corner.
You have to look into your own safety. You have to. And again, ladies and gentlemen, the basic rules of the road, you have to be responsible for yourself, for your safety. Yes, we do know accidents do happen, but
a lot of them can be avoided.
A lot of them can be avoided. Yeah. I believe so. I have had so many close calls. I have literally reversed from accidents. I see them persons cut the corner so tight that they're literally into me, and I have to back up.
Well, actually, I have a driver that I am looking for at present. This morning, someone pulled out in front of me and almost created as like an inch away from colliding with that person. You know, coming out of not these, but that business place just west of these. You know, that person came out from between 2 vehicles, and I was traveling from east to west, and almost came into contact with that person. You know, and so it's just a matter of time. But so, I mean, something has to be done when persons do that sort of thing, because you know, someone else may not have reacted as quickly as I did, and so there could have been a problem there right there and then, you see. And so persons have to understand that safety is what we preach, and taking chances is not what we expect of you on the roads. There's protocol in which you must follow. You get to an intersection, or you're coming from a by road onto a main road, you have to stop. You must stop. And when do you exit? You exit
when it is safe.
It is safe for you to do so.
Another thing, when you're coming from a minor road onto the major road,
you stop.
The rule of the road is
you stop.
Should I go into that? Yeah. Let me tell you what it is. First, we drive on the left. So when you approach a junction, since traffic to your right is going to be closest to you, you will look. The sequence is right, left,
and then
right. Okay? So the visual sequence is right, left, right, because the right side is closer to you, and that you don't want to leave a second between there, and you will get into difficulties. Secondly, the vehicle or vehicles on the major road should not change or alter their speed or direction to accommodate you. So for those persons who speed out of a junction at 40 miles per hour and then drop their speed to 10 miles per hour,
hoping that someone run in their back.
Somebody will run in your back. And according to the rules of the road, you may or can be deemed liable for that collision.
But of course, you know,
there have been numerous situations.
But of course, you know, persons are of the opinion that once they and they straighten up,
that is the wrong notion. That
see,
you are so far off with that.
It is. It's far-fetched. It is very far-fetched.
You,
so
it's not all right, and that you're right. It's not.
I'm glad you touched on it, because this is one of the problems that we've been encountering from the traffic department standpoint. We're having too many collisions happening that way. It is not a race for you to get out. Yes, there may be one or two or three
Maybe
persons.
a quick getaway, and so you could get into the line of traffic. But the getting into the line of traffic and stopping,
You see,
it doesn't make any sense.
You see, the thing about it, some of us force our way. We force our way so that, okay, he can't hit me, so I will drive out. That is your thinking. But what if that driver wasn't focused on you? Or what if that driver looked and saw you standing at the corner and continued on their merry way, not expecting you to come out? What would happen? You have to also give yourself sufficient time to look both ways. And too many times you hear persons say that no vehicle was there. It's because they didn't look properly. So they didn't give themselves sufficient time to see the vehicle that was approaching from the opposite side. And so I don't know, how is it possible on a straight road, you're exiting from a minor road, and you look left and you look right and nothing was there, but yet you get into a collision? I don't know how that is possible. I always ask the question, did the car come from the sky? Because of course, if it didn't come from left, it didn't come from right, it had to have come from somewhere, for you to get into a collision with it, because you would not have moved 2 or 3 seconds before that collision. Again, we want you to stay focused when you're driving, because it is not just safety of the other persons, but it's your safety that is involved. And so you, as a motorist or a pedestrian, you have
personal responsibility.
Yeah, and you have to exercise.
Another big issue that is getting prevalent: earphones, headsets.
Yeah.
Persons walking with earphones and headsets, and their back turned to oncoming traffic, and inadvertently stepping into the line of traffic.
But do you know sometimes they're so distracted that they walk across oncoming traffic? Whatever it is they're listening to is like they're in another world. And
that might be possible. That might be possible.
There was an instance where I had to actually pull a child out of the road in front of a vehicle, because that child was so into whatever she was listening to that she didn't realize that the vehicle was coming. And the driver who was driving that vehicle did not see her. You see? And so parents, you may think you're giving them something as a gift or you're rewarding them with these things, but ensure that they're using it properly, because it may be to their detriment. And so you want to ensure that when they're walking the streets, that they are alert and they know what's happening around them. They have to know their surroundings. You see? And Mr. Nichols, with these new roads that we're having, I know some pedestrians will need to use those crossings properly, and they will need to ensure that when they're crossing the road, that they're doing so in a manner that consider themselves safe, and will have to give the driver sufficient time to come to a standstill. Because I can tell you that if it is that driver miss, or you miss, that driver will hit, and we don't want that situation. And so we're appealing to persons, both motorists and pedestrians alike, to please use these roads and use them properly. Please.
Now, on our roadways, as I said earlier, in Antigua, we drive on the left, right?
What side?
On the left side.
I wonder if everybody...
The left side is the right side, which is the right side is the left side of the road, all right? So don't make no mistake with that. The left side. Okay, let me not say the right side.
So
the left side is the correct side.
Yes.
The left side is the correct side to drive on. No. There is something called the Vehicle Road and Traffic Regulation on the cap.
Wait, before you go into that, I'm glad you mentioned the left side of the road. You know why? Because we have roads in Antigua where traffic flows in both directions. Now, if it is that the left side of the road is blocked, it means that you should not go any further. If it's your side of the road that's blocked, it means that you should not go any further.
That is if it is barricaded. When you say block, possibly with a barricade, police barricade, or cones, not the block like a pothole. The pothole doesn't really block you, right? But once that happens, in the case of a pothole, and you don't want to go down, some of them, certain things you might, certain things.
Especially in the areas where there's a one lane traffic operating.
You should
especially
wait.
where the roadworks are being conducted. You must understand that if it's one lane, it means that
somebody must yield.
Yeah, and if your side
if it is one lane, well, if it's a two-way lane that is obstructed, if it is a two-way lane that is obstructed, then the obstructed side have to wait or have to yield.
No, but I'm saying okay, for instance,
Spruggle
service station,
which currently now is under rehabilitation. So, bear with the persons, the authorities involved.
Is that traffic going from west to east can flow through that junction. Traffic coming from east to west has to make a left turn or detour through where old
from east to west. Traffic from east to west.
East to west, right?
Right.
Going from east to west comes to by Youth Skill and comes out into Potters.
Come to Potters, right?
Right. Not come around the.
But do you know there are cones and a detour sign right under the
left
tamarind
side
tree?
of that road is blocked.
And they go around the blockade.
Go around the blockage.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is an illegal maneuver.
But do you know the excuses that persons would give you? Some of the excuses.
They follow the person in front of them.
Right. And not only that, the road is not blocked. One side is blocked.
Yeah.
That is it. But then which side is blocked? Your side. So it means that you should not be going through.
It's unfortunate.
The opening that you see is for vehicles going in the opposite direction because that would be their left. And so you shouldn't be contending with them for that passage there. Okay? You shouldn't be.
So we want to say good night to Spotnit Williams, Stacey Thomas. Thanks for joining us. Good having you. We have your comments. And on that note, keeping to the left side of the road, right? Yes, our speed limit maximum is 40 miles per hour. But if you're traveling at 5 miles per hour, oh gosh, the rules of the road says you stay as close or as far left as possible so as to allow other individuals who want to overtake you or pass you, to allow them to continue on the journey. You don't want how do you call that? Not a motorcade, but a procession. You don't want to build a procession. Believe it or not, you would be causing unnecessary obstruction, which in itself is a violation of the VRTR.
Intentionally do that, yeah.
Especially when they're driving right of center, left of center. When they're driving left of center, nobody can pass, and it's creating an issue. So, if you're lining your 5-10 miles per hour, you drive as far left as possible so as to allow persons to continue on their journey, and you don't create road rage. That is part of what helps create road rage, when persons 4, 5, 6, 200 vehicles behind you, and then they decide they're going to overtake 10 persons because they see a spot 10 spaces ahead and they go in for it, and then boom, we into something.
But mind you, if you alter your vehicle, that vehicle has to drive across the road every now and again to avoid a bump or a pothole, then you're putting yourself in a bad situation there.
The cotton spring thing.
Yeah.
The cotton spring thing. I saw a guy walking across the junction, the intersection by hand sometime today, and my colleague said, "Oh, here bouncing." And I was like, maybe he cut his springs. he was bouncing, But on a serious note, that is called altering your vehicle, and it can have different effects, and that in itself is a violation of the traffic rules and regulation, which you can find in CAP 460 in the laws of Antigua and Barbuda. So please help yourself. Go over there, look at it, read whatever you can, educate yourself, right? And then whenever we're on, you can message any one of us directly. You have the WhatsApp number 774-3470. You can message the page More Sports and Events Antigua. You can also follow us on Instagram, More Sports Antigua and Events. You can leave a message, a comment anywhere there, we will take it up, we'll turn it into a subject, we will discuss it for your knowledge. That's what we're trying to do. And not going too far from that, keeping to the left side. Our two major roads, Friesel Road and Airport Road, for your information, to date, those two roads are still two-way traffic.
Amen.
One going north to south and one going south to north. So not because it's wide you want to create 4 lanes in it. No, it is 2 lane. Alright? Until it is marked or directives are given otherwise. That is how it remains. Now,
before you move on. Now, we don't drive on assumptions. We do not drive on assumptions. I'm hearing that we have roundabouts at the top of Dickinson Bay Street and in the vicinity of YMCA.
Welcome, Ricoy Campbell.
Is that so? We have
No,
roundabout at the top
no,
of
we just,
Dickinson Bay.
stick a bit right there. I'm just welcoming Ricoy Campbell with a comment. Now, Ricoy, we're going to take your question. We're going to take your question immediately as Mr. McBurnie finished saying what he was saying. No,
Yes.
back to you, Mr. McBurnie.
I was saying, and I'm sure you would have heard that statement, that there's a roundabout at the top of Dickinson Bay Street by Premier Beverages. Is there a roundabout there? I haven't seen one. So folks, drive the way you are accustomed to.
So-
Until there is a roundabout there, you drive the way you're accustomed to, keeping to the left, giving way to traffic, of course, at the T-junction, not
Alright.
at the roundabout.
It's supposed to be treated as a T-junction.
Junction, yeah.
T-junction.
Alright.
Which is something like this. Right? So,
Stop when
the
you...
rule of the roundabout, which is
There's no roundabout.
give way to the right, is nowhere in that, because there is no roundabout in the vicinity of Premier Beverages.
And in the...
Similarly, there is no roundabout in the vicinity of the Lion's Den.
So the lamp pole is not a roundabout. Okay?
Alright, so as the road was being used prior to its rehabilitation and widening, again, it is wider, there's more space, but it is still a two-way traffic. Those two junctions, they are still T-junctions, so whoever have to yield in the case of Dickinson Bay and Friesel Road by Premier Beverages,
Friesel has the right of way.
Friesel is the dominant road. Actually, Cross Street starts there. So the roundabout is actually on
No
the
roundabout.
junction is on
Dickinson Bay and...
Cross Street,
Cross Street.
right?
But do you know that road is also referred to as Symmetry Road?
Which one?
Same one.
Friesel Road?
Coming all the way up to the... Yes.
Well, people call it differently.
There's so many
But
different names here.
that area, it's a T-junction. The main road running from south to north or north to south, you can call it Friesel Road, you can call it Cross Street. That is a dominant road. Dickinson Bay Street must stop and give way to that traffic.
Exactly.
Must.
So whether you're driving a truck,
It doesn't matter.
a trailer, or a car, you have to stop.
When we get to the vicinity of Lions Den, Upper Bishopgate Street, which is coming from Government House between YMCA, coming down there, that area must yield to Cross Street. Must. Right? So Cross Street running from south to north and north to south, you all must yield. You understand? So no roundabout, no roundabout. Junction, just when you get there, stop, wait, let somebody let you out or whatever. This is what Ricoy Campbell asked. Let's say I'm going to Epicurean coming from town. Should I still keep left or center to turn right? Okay, let's put it into perspective. He's leaving town
To go
to Epicurean, so he's heading north on Friesel Road. He wants to go to Epicurean. Ricoy, that is a simple answer. I don't know if this in your side you don't answer, but I'll put it in simple terms. Like we stated earlier, that area you can go left of center.
There's a lamp pole in the middle of the road. Remember that.
Where?
Dickinson, at the top of Dickinson.
No,
Where is he talking
Epicurean.
about?
No, he's talking about Frizel Road itself,
Okay.
going to Epicurean. You know, the road is really, really wide.
Right,
So he's asking whether he should stay left, far left. I am assuming that he's saying far left or right. In that case, you would go to left of center. There is something that we use, especially we use it more when we investigate collisions, and it's called an imaginary line, right? So as a driver, you would see, you could judge the road and say, okay, around this area would be the center of the road, right? So in the event that you want to go left of center, you avoid crossing that imaginary line, because once you cross that imaginary line, you would be putting yourself maybe in harm's way of the oncoming traffic. Bearing in mind, no matter how wide the lane is, it is one lane, and the other driver reserves the right to utilize any amount of space that they want within that area.
What's his name?
Ricoy Campbell.
Ricoy?
So we're gonna let
What I can tell you, also I can give you some comfort by telling you, Transport Board is in the process of marking Frizel Road. So hopefully you will have no difficulty figuring out where
what
you should
to do.
go. All right? I'm sure maybe by the end of the week they should get to that vicinity. So hopefully just be patient and be safe at the same time, and I'm sure you will get there, and they will get there, so that you will feel comfortable making that turn into Epicurean without wondering if you're putting yourself at risk.
So tonight been a relatively good night so far, and we're just browsing through subjects as we go along, and we're gonna come along.
Now, before we move any further, right? I just want to take the opportunity here to just big up the traffic department.
They've been working wonders over the past few months.
I just want to big up Mr. Ellis, Mr. Francis, and Miss Russell, and the rest of the crew, the traffic crew, the motorcycle unit.
I'm going to big up the foot soldiers.
I'm telling you, no, I'm bigging up everybody. No, I'm telling you, the department. I mean, we have a group of guys. Yes, we're small in numbers, but they have a big heart. And that is what I like, and I must say that's what I appreciate coming from me first, you know, on behalf of the rest of the team. You know, we really do appreciate the work that it's not an easy job. I can tell you, when you go out there and persons are deliberately committing offenses, and of course sometimes, for instance, if a person is parked where they're not supposed to, you tell them to move on, and the person is telling you, oh, they're just waiting on someone when they should be moving. You know, again, even if you're waiting for someone, if you go around the block, that person is not going to get lost. When they come out, they'll be outside waiting on you. And so you can pick them up. But sometimes we behave like if we move, that person is going to get lost and we're never going to see them again. You know, so we have to stay right there and wait. Or sometimes I wonder if you don't trust the person, that you're free to move from the door of the business that you're going to. Come on. We have to understand that drawing up alongside is an offense here in Antigua and Barbuda.
Under the vehicle road and traffic regulations.
Waiting for someone, or you're waiting for plenty people, or you're waiting to pick up something, you're still committing an
Stick
offense.
up in there. By the way, drawing alongside, for those who don't know what that is, drawing alongside in layman's term, double pack. That's called drawing alongside. You double pack. And you know what that normally does? Hey, those persons who double park by what's that party thing name place?
Okay,
Lower High Street.
Lower High Street. Right.
Let's stop it.
Yeah. So I mean, and not only that, yeah. Think about it. You're on High Street. Look at the width of the road on High Street. Come on. Now, remember, Mr. Nichols' judgment may be better than mine's. My car may be bigger than his. He may have an easy time going through your vehicle.
You have a Tacoma or F-150.
You understand? you may have an easy time going through. I may have such a difficult time.
Oh,
the beauty about
don't
this,
talk about it's not that
persons are
might not be the
sitting
size
in
of the
those
vehicle,
vehicles. Do you know? Persons are literally sitting in those vehicles and watch persons struggle.
And they wouldn't move.
And they would not move. And the moment someone touched the mirror,
Problems.
They're mad as hell.
And honestly,
You know?
sometimes it's not even the size of the vehicle, the individual who drive.
And sometimes the way they're parked.
And let me tell you something. If you park in a manner that is obstructing or by any stretch of imagination deemed to be obstructing the free flow of traffic, the driver who is trying to pass reserves the right to stop and tell you to move.
What do you think will happen in that
So you
case?
cannot look at them and tell them, hey, a 10-ton truck can pass over there. Why make you not pass? Because they're driving maybe an Ignis or something.
That person
Because they're little. They reserve the right to tell you, move,
that person,
more pass.
That person do not have to squeeze themselves between that space. They have no reason to.
They have no reason to. That should
so
never be.
Persons must be considerate of the fact that everyone's judgment is not the same. It's just definitely not the same. And while I'm on that, one of the things that persons keep doing, stopping and putting on your hazard light.
What is the significance of the hazard light in those circumstances?
So sometimes
are they broken down?
I was just going to ask you. I wonder if it's broken down. The vehicle is broken down, and then they will come out boldly and tell you, "But officer, I had my hazard light on."
And my flashes.
What does it mean?
And my flashes.
What does it mean? Again, not because you commit no offense and you put your hazard light on, it means that you're exempted. No, it doesn't work that way. All right, it does not work that way. So what you should do is utilize. What's amazing?
Parking lots.
And St. John's City has more parking lots now than it had 2 years ago. Almost every street has a parking lot. Every street. Now imagine you spend $2 and you get a whole hour to do what you want to do. But you prefer.
They can risk it on 150.
Yes, you prefer the risk.
Hey, imagine that. A busman will pick up a passenger on All Saints Road, where the passenger is going to pay them $2.25 to take them to town,
and risk getting a ticket for $150.
And risk getting a ticket for $150 because why? They're picking up the passenger in an area that is not a designated bus stop. Oh gosh, stop it.
But how do you work with that maths?
I mean, where is the common sense? Where is it? It just
sometimes we just have to think a little bit. We just have to think. And you're coming to the bus station. You're less than 100 yards from the bus station, but you're stopping to drop someone off.
Okay, on that note, in the vicinity of King George, on Valley Road, is not a bus stop.
There's no bus stop in
the
gosh,
vicinity. Please, stop picking up and dropping off people there.
From the bus station.
But hear the joke. They know that, because the drivers will look around to make sure no police or traffic went anywhere around, and then stop and tell them quick.
Let's just practice good habits. Let's just practice good driving habits.
We need
we don't need someone to be watching over our shoulder every second.
We need some courteous drivers.
We don't need that. So do what you know is right, and of course you wouldn't be. You know what it does? It causes us to write less tickets, and it causes you
to save
more money. You see? So the money that you spend on the tickets, you can spend it doing something else. And so just do the right thing, and then at the end of the day, you will not have to say the officer is unreasonable, or the officer should have used his discretion when you didn't use yours.
On that note of discretion,
and the officer is targeting you when the officer don't know you from anywhere.
On that note of discretion, the discretion is to give or not to give. So in the day or the time in question, most likely the officer's discretion was to give, and he gave you. And that's that's the one-to-one of it. To give or not to give. That's the discretion.
But then again, Nichols, your discretion may not be my discretion.
No, you see, they have a notion that if the discretion doesn't go in their favor, it's not discretion.
And also,
but that's not the case.
Persons are of the opinion that they can do as they like, and when the officer comes, he will warn you.
Oh, this afternoon.
Not get get this impression that when you do as you like, the officer will warn you. The officer also has the responsibility to take action against you.
Of course.
All right. So if you know that you're doing something that is wrong, don't do it. If you know what you're doing is going to probably land you in some hot water, don't do it. If you know that the traffic light is changing from green to amber, stop. Do not speed up, and then when you get caught, say that you came through a green light when vehicles flowing from the other light has already started flowing. You're putting yourself in danger, you're putting other persons in danger, and you're exposing yourself to get arrested for dangerous driving. All right?
So as
not much timing on the light. A few seconds is just going to make
that's
sure
all that you need. That's all that you need to ruin yourself. But as we stay focused on the basic rules of the road for today, we're going to touch on something that I have seen and heard a lot of people complaining about it. Indicators.
Oh my.
Indicators. Tell us. Use your indicator. Your indicator is something. It is descriptive. It tells you exactly what it means. It's called an indicator. It is to indicate to other people as to your intention.
Or the motorists.
Right? So when you don't indicate, just put this into perspective. A police officer is directing traffic, right? And you're approaching him from a junction where he's at an intersection, and you're approaching him and you don't have an indicator on. So he really doesn't know where you're going. So he indicates to you to go straight, and then you make a right turn on him, or you make a left turn on him. You know, you put all sorts of risk
but
up.
Not only that.
High risk situations.
Not only that, you're driving and you're going to turn into somewhere, and someone is waiting to turn out, and you wait until you get right in that intersection, and that's when you put on your indicator. That is wrong. Your indicator should be on about 50 feet or so away from the
sufficient time.
that you're going to turn.
I mean, in light that we have some by roads that are close. Right.
You want to make sure that
you get the correct one. You don't want to make it seem that you're going into this one and then you pass it straight. You know, but you need at least some warning to other persons. But we're not going to spend much time on that tonight. I just want to make a quick call on persons, and we're going to touch on that subject briefly, just for about 2 minutes. We're going to touch on this subject, the subject of license and insurance. Ladies and gentlemen, we want you to know that your vehicular insurance policy have on it in print an expiry date. All right? So when your driver's license, when your insurance policy, the vehicle insurance policy expiry date reaches, that policy, how they say it, gonna guasa, in a good again, you need to get it renewed. Same as your vehicle licensing. Whilst transport board, and persons have the notion that they have, how they call it?
Grace period.
Grace period. Transport board allows a period of time that they don't charge you a late fee. That have nothing to do with you not licensing your vehicle. Your vehicle is still not licensed and it's not supposed to be on the road. That's just what it is. Alright, so that notion of grace period is an in-house thing for transport board. Transport board deal with that when you come, not the police, and that is not what the rules of the road say. Alright, so on that note, we running into not a little time. You know, we've been chatting away for the better part of an hour. We've been chatting away. We're trying to give you as much information as possible on our first time. What's going to happen next time on our next program is that we're going to have specific subjects that we're going to go in depth into, and as such, we would like you to message us, call us, and give us your subjects, your place of concerns that you want us to address or that you want clarity on. And I do hope that persons get a clear know on what happens at the junction of Dickinson Bay Street and Friday Road or Cross Street, vicinity of Primo Beverages, and similarly in the vicinity of Lions Den, and both Friday Road and Sir George Walter Highway. As I stated earlier, they are still a two-way traffic. You only follow markings on the road. When you see them, comply with them as is. Other than that, don't create your own imaginary marking. Don't do that, because everybody is going to create their own, and they are going to run intertwined, and they are going to create some of the things that we call smash ups, you know, and we don't want too much of that on those roads. Okay.
All right, so again, we want to take the opportunity to just remind you as motorists that you have a responsibility from the time you get behind the wheel of that vehicle, that you have a responsibility. Again, we've seen quite a lot of young children standing between seats. Yes, that is something that we keep talking about. It is dangerous. It put those young ones at risk. And so if you care about them, make sure that they're strapped in, just like you are strapped in while they're standing. You want to make sure that they too are strapped in also the child seat or in the back seat once they're not 14 years of age. The other thing I want to touch on again before I leave is the cell phones. Again, it is an offense to be driving and holding or driving and using your handheld device. And so again, we want to just sensitize motorists to get a Bluetooth device, whether it's through your system in your vehicle, or you get that one that you can attach to your air, whatever it is, just prevent you from using those cell phones. And to those ladies who like to carry the cell phone on your lap, that too you should not be doing.
Because they're constantly looking down, no?
Exactly, but that's the first thing you do is take it up. Again, put it in the cup holder or somewhere else where you do not have to take it up. Once it's on your lap, it's likely to fall or distract you. And again, we want you to be safe. So please, we're appealing to you. It's $500 that we don't want to take from you. But if you want to give us, of course, we are welcome. You are welcome to do so. And of course, we want you to be concerned of what you're doing when you're traveling on the roadways, and we want you to be safe, and we want to keep others safe by the manner in which you drive. So continue to drive safely, and of course, take care. Look out for the other person.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude our first episode of Traffic TV, we just want to touch on a few light things that persons may see as trivial, but actually they are not. And one of those things, one of these acts that persons commit and regularly is they cannot seem to keep in a lane, and that has caused collisions. And on several occasions I would be standing by the fire station or driving in a line of traffic going to town, and you would see persons in the far left lane, and by the time they get to Coronation Road, boom, across the road straight to Coronation Road, and again they're not even indicating. Let me inform you that when you enter in a lane, the procedure is you indicate and then maneuver. You don't maneuver and then indicate, because that have already gone. Alright? So on that note, I'm Neville Nichols. I'm going to tell you, I will see you next week. You will have your subject. Send them to us. We will address them. Trust me, we will. So we're going to let Senior Sergeant McBurnie have his last say on this program tonight.
Well, I just want to say thank you for having me. And of course, it has been a pleasure. And I look forward to the next, whenever that is, the next edition. It's been fun.